that in of itself is so gratifying because you literally, once you get to a certain stage, it literally almost feels like you're flying. It just feels so good.
Both of us, like, we're very creative people, so we always want something to push us to do something. Like, what is that thing exactly? And that's a question that I sometimes ask myself as well, like, what's gonna make me.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Tea with Mint. Our episode today is going to be. Lean is doing a little dance, that's why I laugh. Our episode today is going to be about what gets you inspired and motivated to do anything that you want to do.
Kind of forgot the topic, by the way. So it's interesting.
And I feel like this is something that also like needs a lot of reflection and introspection into what really gets us going as people. So we're just gonna dive into our stories of like how we got inspired to do certain things and maybe some of our inspirations and yeah, what motivates us to keep us going. We're not gonna share what we're drinking today because it's Ramadan and we're both fasting. So, but yeah. So, Lean, what was like somewhat of a near inspiration, or like what is something that you're doing right now that you got inspired very recently to do, and what do you think inspired you to kind of just like do it?
First of all, this is a very relevant topic to what I'm going through with my own like personal journey right now. Like when you mentioned it, I was like, oh my God, I need to think about this already. So this is perfect. But I think one of the recent things, the most recent thing is me starting to write my own novel. And I feel like I've wanted to write my own novel for such a long time. Like me and Sarah, we started writing fanfics at some point, guys, okay? I had 20 readers. But so like writing has always been like a part of our life, but it wasn't until like last summer that I got inspired to write it based on like something that happened in my life. And I was like thinking so much about it, writing so much about it, and then like an idea crossed my mind. And I think what makes me inspired to write it is, first of all, I want to see the ending for the novel that I'm writing, but also like I've told this to Sarah, reading and writing for me is one of my most pure hobbies. Like it has never been touched by anything. No one has ever commented on it, criticized me for something that I've done. I've always journaled. I've always like writing is just like my way of like thinking. So it's my most pure hobby. And sometimes that would have been something scary for me. But I think because it's still in like hiding in my computer also, I just like it. It's kind of like my secret way of having fun right now. Nobody knows the story, nobody's read the story, so it's just my own thing. And that makes me really happy about working on it because it's for me, for now at least. So yeah, that's my most recent thing.
For me, the first thing that came to mind while you were talking was horse riding.
Yeah.
And basically, the catalyst for that, or like what got me started, is that on the day of my 25th birthday, I was coming home from work with a friend, and we were just riding home in the car. And she was like, "You're 25 now. What is something that you would like want to do now in your life that you haven't done yet, or something? Or like, how do you feel? Do you feel any different?" I'm like, "No." She was like, "Is there anything different that you want to do?" And I just thought, I was like, the first thing and the only thing that popped into my head was horse riding. I want to take horse riding lessons. And at that time, of course, like it was still January and I didn't start my horse riding until, or like my lessons until September. But it was also because I was in a toxic work environment that did not allow me any space or time to breathe or think about myself in any way, shape, or form. And so in August, at the end of August, I moved to a new job, and that was like, now is the time. But I was like, had been thinking of it and like doing my research and of like which stables to go to and who is a good trainer and all of that, like very low key Instagram research for like 8 months before I actually went or talked to anyone about it. Yeah, so for me, it's horse riding, and I'm so proud of it because even though I'm not like that advanced at this point, it's just this, like you said, it's untouched, it's this pure outlet. And even though maybe it's not as untouched, like everyone criticizes me for like, what kind of hobby is that? Or like, why are you thinking of like a very expensive hobby, or why do you are you going to literally the ends of the earth, like, which is, I'm going to stables that is very far away from where I live, like literally you're going so far just to ride horses for a couple of minutes and then come home. Like it's for a lot of people it doesn't make sense, but it just brings me so much happiness that I'm
Yeah.
like, nobody can ruin this for me. And honestly, I'm in such a good mood after I come home. Like for the next 2 days, nobody can ruin my mood. And then I start to miss it. And then I'm like, I need to go again, which is so bad because right now it's raining and like the horses will slip and you can't ride horses when it's raining
You
on
miss the
slippery
horses.
ground. I want to go. It's been raining all week. No.
I think you're also inspiring me to like want it more. I've always wanted to ride horses, but like oh, as you mentioned, like it's a very expensive hobby and it's like way more expensive where I'm living. So I've always just like put it on the back. I'm not gonna think about it right now. I don't have the money, or like even if I think about like getting a promotion, but now I'm just like, you know what? Like, why not try it? Why not try it? Which is scary because like you're getting addicted and obsessed. So I'm just
Yeah.
like I'm scared of trying it and then just like being broken and paying like give me more lessons, give me more time with the horses.
Yeah. Here's the thing, like you don't need to pay for time with the horses, but you need to pay if you want to ride the horse. So, and honestly, I feel like that in of itself is so gratifying because you literally, once you get to a certain stage, it literally almost feels like you're flying. It just feels so good.
Yeah. No, I was just thinking of like what other things because like writing the book has always only been happening for like a couple of weeks now, and what I was thinking like of what other things because you said like what inspires you to move on, and I think like there are so many things, and because both of us like we're very creative people, so we always want something to push us to do something. Like what is that thing exactly? And that's a question that I sometimes ask myself as well, like what's gonna make me get out of my comfort zone or get out of like the place I'm in and just like create something or like do something. And I think like with the podcast, like this is the first time ever that we both did something without over planning it. So like the inspiration phase did not fade before we started. And that's why we've kept on going on, I think. So like we've been inspired and then we started and then we kept going because that kind of like light did not go off before we started. Like if it had gone off before we started, I don't think we're gonna be like recording our eighth. This is the eighth or the seventh episode.
I think it's the seventh.
Yeah, we wouldn't have been recording the seventh episode even though like 7 episodes doesn't seem like a lot, but for us it's so much.
Yeah. And I think also just like having goals and actually seeing progress towards those goals is in and of itself a motivation to keep going because like you see the progress. And even though like at this point we don't really have like listeners or anything and
I saw
nobody
two
knows about this, but like,
views on our YouTube videos like damn, and then I was like
no,
it's us.
it could be us.
Exactly.
That's so sad. But at the same time, I feel like just because we're not really focused on views right now and we think we're focusing on just making the episodes because it's just something that we like. And so I think that in of itself is a very rewarding, like, and motivating thing to do. And I think with writing, the more you write, the more, and you see that word count go up with your book and you're just like, oh, I want like a book of like 100,000 words. And you see you're like, oh, hitting those like benchmarks that just makes you want to write more. And I just remember that from when I was doing the book. And something that inspired me recently is also just like reading. The other day, because I hadn't been reading for a while, and all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, but I was like, I'm gonna get back into reading. And I've been trying to get back into reading for years, but it's
Yeah.
not worked. So I feel like it's a special kind of book that got me to do this. So I
Okay.
finished the book and I was like, I need to reflect. Like before I jump into the next book in the series, I need to reflect about like what this book taught me. And that part of like the reflection just got me so excited to go back and write my book again. Even though I think it's been 3 to 4 years since I wrote my first draft. It's been so
Yeah.
long. And I just dumped it and I didn't go back. But now I'm just like so excited to go back and do it. What is something that for you dries out the motivation? Like just takes it away, like steals it from you?
I think I've been like thinking about this a lot the past few days as well, which is like I'm motivated by a lot of things first of all, or like I'm inspired by a lot of things, and so sometimes my kind of compass is just like where am I supposed to go here, or where am I supposed to take this, or can I even take it to this place? And I think one of the things that kind of stumps out any inspiration that I have is like fear of like because like as I've mentioned, like I work in art, I'm a graphic designer, and you interact with a lot of people in your day-to-day job. So a lot of people criticize your work, and a lot of people tell you what to do, what not to do. So that's like one of the things that kind of takes away the fun of it. But then once you want to go back to your passion project and you want to create products, or like you want to create something that you want to sell, or like where you're like not your worth, but kind of like what you're putting out is your own taste, and you have to let go of these walls where you're just like accept criticism because it's like your own thing. That's for me, that fear is what scares me. Even while writing the book, I'm kind of scared sometimes when I'm writing it, because I'm just like, someone is gonna have to read it at some point. Someone will read it and someone will see these things, and people might criticize me for the way I'm thinking about it, or the way I'm writing about these certain things, because it's a thing that I'm writing about things I know, I'm writing about people I know, and there's a fear in that, and sometimes that kind of scares you into stopping. And the way I'm trying to think about it is, or like not trying, I'm kind of like embodying this way of thinking, is I'm doing it for me first of all, and nobody else's opinion matters, because of like so many reasons. First of all, I'm doing it for me, and that's something that kind of always makes me not motivated. At some point it did not make me motivated, because I was like, if I'm making it for other people, what would other people want? But then I realized I just have to do what I want, and then just whatever. If people want to do it, if people want to buy it, if people relate to what I'm doing and what I'm selling, because I was thinking, as I mentioned to Sarah, to create like stickers and like sell stickers and stuff like that, then they can buy them and they can consume what I'm putting out. But I shouldn't care about what people want, because I need to churn out things. Like when you don't plan and you just put out, then you learn. But if you just stop putting out and start like living in your head, you're not going to do anything basically.
I completely agree. Honestly, some of the things that top motivation or that dry it out are just being involved in too many things and lack of time, because the longer it drags out, especially getting started, and even if I'm in the middle of it and I have to stop for something else and come back, chances are I'm not gonna come back. At least not anytime soon. Unless I re-find that inspiration. So I think that, and so I think I'm starting to learn to be more selective with what I get involved in, and also leaving things early. Like if this thing does not give me the benefit that it gives me anymore, or that I thought that I want to get out of it, then it's no longer serving me and it no longer needs to be in my life. So I think it's very important to also just be selective of what you want to do, and what your goals are, and what is serving those goals, instead of just having things or getting involved in things that are leaching out your time and your energy and your motivation, and people who are leaching out your time and energy and motivation.
It's being like it's like choosing carefully what you want to include in your life, because yeah, I agree. I think that's very important. It's just being more, what's it called? What's the word, Yani? Like more, what's the word? Like more choosing. Not that.
Selective.
More, yeah, more selective, and more like that your selection is based on thoughts and reasons, not on like fears and like fear of missing out, or like I got a good opportunity, why am I not taking it? Well, you don't need this opportunity right now. You have other things going on. Yeah, I think we have to, because we're all like, because we are very creative and we have a lot of energy, we think that we need to take everything on because we can, and we have been given this opportunity to do a lot. And that's for me, like I'm like, what's the next big project that I want to start on? What's the next project I want to involve, or like a hobby of mine that I want to get back to? And you have to be very intentional, that's the word, intentional in what you want to do, and what are your goals in the future that are going to come out. And even if they change in the future and stuff like that, then you can like rearrange and like, but just have like a limited amount of things that you're going to spend your time on.
Yeah, that's so important, especially for me, because I feel like I more
Same.
often than not find myself involved in way too many things. Like right now at this moment, I'm involved in 5 projects that are ongoing. Like these are not including the ones like me going back to write my book, or me like things that I want to actually do for myself. Oh wait, I actually 6. I didn't count the podcast.
Yeah.
So I think it's just also just because you're involved in so many things, it just gets you to a point where sometimes you're not meeting deadlines that you want to meet. And And that in and of itself, I find very demotivating. So for me, it's like, oh, I didn't edit the podcast episode in time, or yeah,
You have to get on that.
or yeah, I have to get on that. But it's not because I wasn't working. It's not because I had the time and I didn't work on it, but rather because I was just working on another project, maybe something that I hate more. Um, so just generally, it's a lot of, yeah, I think intentionality is very important. And also just don't jump at every opportunity. And maybe this is a very privileged position to talk about, because I've had a lot of other opportunities and a lot of people who have come up to me and be like, let's get involved in this project together and this project together and this project together. And I'm like, yes, yes, yes. And I should have been like, yes, not really, maybe not now, come back next year, or like, no, not at all.
Yeah, I think
But
I relate to this, but in a different way in general. I think like because I was thinking like the actual things that I'm doing in my life right now are two things. There are two things that I'm doing: the podcast and writing my book. But then, like in my head, I'm planning all of these different things that I want to get into, and it's first of all it's kind of like there's so much noise in your head because you're not choosing, and like for you it's because you chose to do something. For me it's because I haven't taken a decision to take on something, and it's like this because I want to have my options open. So I'm just like, fine, what can I do with this spare time that I have? I can, fine, I'm reading stuff, I'm doing a lot of like consuming, but what I'm saying is like, where am I putting this energy of creation, of like creating stuff? And it's because I have so many things in my head that I'm just like, maybe I'll do this, maybe I'll do that, maybe I'll create this, maybe, you know? And that's where like for me, it's like having so many choices in my brain that kind of like freezes me. I'm just like, what am I going to take the next step in? I'm not sure how to tackle that, to be honest with you, because sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't work out.
yeah, I think because for me, for a very long time, I kind of was like that. I think until I wrote the first draft of my book that I realized, oh no, this is not working. And I realized that planning does get me more demotivated, because in my head, if I planned my story before I wrote it, then in a way I had already told it. And if I had already told it, I didn't want to tell it anymore. So
Right.
for me, the planning stage, especially if it goes on for a very long time, or like, and a very long time for me could be very short to other people. For me, it's like maximum, it has to be 3 days. If it's more than 3 days, then I no longer want to do the project. Sometimes certain projects, it has to be less than, because that's like how easily I lose motivation. And I think for my book, I tried to plan for like a week. I was like, I'm gonna plan for a week and then I'm gonna start. 3 days in, I abandoned all planning and I just started writing.
Yeah.
Because I was like, okay, no, this is enough planning. If I just write one more word in the planning stage, then that's it. Like, I'm not gonna write the book. I know I'm not gonna write the book anymore, because I've tried to write the book before that and it just didn't work. And then I just started writing. I had like a daily goal of like writing 1,000 words, and I just wrote every day. I woke up in the same time, wrote, and then went back to sleep. Because, if you know me, you know I love my sleep. And that was like for me the first gratifying real achievement that I could call my own. Yes, I did it, even though nobody knew about it except Leah.
I think it's also the first thing that you did with no outside motivation. Nobody had to tell you to do it. You just did it.
Yeah, I think that's why
Um,
I call it my first real achievement, because other people would be like, oh, I got my bachelor's degree, I graduated high school, I graduated my bachelor's, I did my master's. I'm like, those are not called achievements. Those are what society dictates for your survival. This is not an achievement,
because like
honestly, at this point.
it's not an achievement. It is an achievement, but it's achievement dictated by outside motivation, whereas what you did is like your first achievement dictated by your own motivation. So you kind of prove to yourself that you can do something without anybody telling you to do it, and you can actually finish that thing. And that's kind of what I'm, in a way, like one of the things that motivates me is like, I'm gonna do something on my own and nobody's gonna help me do it. Like, I'm gonna do my own research, I'm gonna do my own writing, and I'm gonna finish it. And nobody's motivating me to do it. Like nobody's like pushing me. Like, Leon, write your book. No one cares except for me. And I think in a way, like doing something for yourself and finishing it, and like a big project and finishing it, and just the only person who cares for it is yourself, is like one of the most like respectful things you can do to your own self. Because like you respect yourself enough to like do something that nobody else is really gonna benefit out of it. Like maybe in the future you get like someone to sign a contract and like you get money out of it, but literally Nobody cares except for you.
Yeah.
So are you gonna care enough for yourself to do it or not?
Yeah. I love how you put that though, for you to have enough self-respect to for you to hold yourself up to a certain standard just for yourself. That's just
Thank you,
well
thank you.
said.
Inspirational speaker moment. But I was thinking while you were talking about your own book, and I think that's something that I also unconsciously did with writing my own book. Is I started writing after. Remember, like how we did like a bunch of cards, and then I didn't
Flashcards.
write. Yeah,
Mm.
and then this time around, when I started writing, I wrote like maybe 5,000 words before I actually was like, fine, I actually do need some planning. But I have already started with the writing at that point. So the motivation was there, the like the goal, and like I already wrote. So like that means it's an ongoing project. It's gonna go on. At that point, I was like, fine, I do need some planning. And I did take my time. Like I took 2 days out of my schedule, I planned a bit, and then I went back into it. So that's maybe like something that we can use. I mean, I'm telling myself this, like maybe I can use it for other projects that I want to do. Start and then plan.
Yeah, I think that's also kind of what we're doing with the podcast. We just started and we didn't know, like, we want to go into so many different directions. And then things happen and circumstances happen, and you're just like, okay, maybe we need to pivot. Or like
True,
maybe we need
actually.
to like reconsider what we're doing. And maybe like far into the future, we would like talk more about like our
Yeah.
podcast journey. But I think it was really interesting. But I kind of also, now that you're talking about like just taking a break to plan, I think when I was also writing my book, I needed to take a break just because here's the thing. Another thing that can be demotivating is that things happening to you, like circumstances that stop you from doing the thing that you love doing, or like all of a sudden you had like this dedicated amount of time, and all of a sudden something happened that is out of your control, and that dedicated amount of time is taken away from you again, and that can be so devastating. But I remember like what you would tell me when I was doing the first draft. You were like, you don't need to write 1,000 words every day, just write 3 words, or like just write 100 words every day. And it doesn't even have to be on your computer, it can be on your phone before you go to sleep. And I don't think, like, I think I did that a couple of days in between, and I think that did help my motivation slightly, because I had to take a break for 2 weeks, which is not a short amount of time in my head.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You had to maintain the
um
streak.
yeah, and I didn't maintain a streak for 2 weeks in the middle of my draft. But I feel like because I did keep thinking about my story, motivation by you, my friend, is that
Thank you, thank you. Same,
I think
by the
that
way.
like helped me after the 2 weeks were over and that circumstance had like passed. And I think now thinking back, like that could have gone on way longer. I think having that support, and just like somebody who's telling you you don't have to write 1,000 words, just write whatever you can. And some days you would write and others you wouldn't. So and that's completely fine as well. But I think after those 2 weeks passed, that helped me go back and start up the streak again of like writing 1,000 words every day. And I think I also had to be like forgiving of myself, because I think that first day back, the first week back, I wasn't even reaching the 1,000 words. I was like writing 900, 800, sometimes even 700. But then the more you write, the more it increases, because at the end of the day, it's all a skill. And the more you do it, the better you get at it, or like the faster you get at it. Maybe not the better, but just the faster you get at it. And just like also just seeing that progress. And I think another thing that could help just generally is having like moments like, or like milestones along the goal, to kind of just stop and reflect on what you're doing. Because it could be interesting that at one point you're like, what if I don't want to do this anymore? And that's okay too. Because I feel like in, at least in my head, I was always afraid of being labeled a quitter. So I would like stick things through that I didn't care about, or I didn't hide, or that just made me miserable, just because, it's like, oh, you barely even started. And then I realized that I'm not a quit. I think just like the whole writing the book thing, or like the draft thing, helped me realize, no, if I want to do something, I am committed to it, and I don't quit halfway through. But if I don't care about this, or it's making me absolutely miserable, then why would I want to continue doing this? Like, it's it's not called quitting if you're intentionally doing it, because it is no longer serving you, your goals, your anything. Really.
I think that comes from, for me at least, it's the way like I've been brought up, where it's always been stressed on in my life that when I was younger, I was not a quitter, but like I would have to have someone on my back pushing me to do something, even if it was a puzzle or something. I would lose interest and I would not want to finish it, and that led, and even in my like adulthood, like where I was in a high school, even as a teenager, I was like I had so many hobbies. I was playing the piano, I learned how to play the ukulele, and I never kind of progressed in these things. I was doing them for fun, and that kind of made me think that I would never do something and stick with it. In my brain, that was what I was feeling. But the reality is I have finished some things, and the reality is not everything has to be something you progress with, and that's something I've learned along the way. There are things that you do for fun, there are things you do because you enjoy having that skill and doing it, and not everything has to get you something out of it. I love playing the piano still, and I think the reason why I've stopped playing it for so long is because I was like, fine, it doesn't define me. I don't define myself as a piano player or as a pianist, so that means I should leave that thing. But if it's something that is for fun, it's a hobby that is for fun, I don't need to be good at it. I think that's also like the reason with the writing. I feel like it's just a natural thing to me, and I want to finish the book because I want to finish the book. But when you were talking about horse riding, and even when I was thinking about reading and like thinking about all the things that I enjoy doing that nobody has ever criticized or told me to do it differently, it just feels normal to do. Like sometimes the thing that is limiting us is what we think people are talking about the thing that we're doing. Let's say I'm playing the piano or doing something, and the people are like, but she has so much potential to like be a better piano player. So I just leave the entire thing because I'm just like, too much expectation out of this hobby that I have. Whereas if I think about it and just, well, I'm having fun, I don't need to be good at it. And actually, I don't need to be good at it. Okay, I'm a perfectionist, but I don't need to be good at everything that I do. Then it's more easier to like choose something that I want to be good at, choose something that I want to finish at least. I don't care about being the best at, but just finishing and like doing something. Then that's what's going to motivate me to finish the passion project, or like something that I even want to work on, but it's also a passion project of mine. That's what motivates me when I just like remove these expectations and just, I don't have to be good at it. I can be mediocre and finish it.
I remember because you said mediocre. I remember when I was like somebody who thought, at a very young age, I'm so good at photography. I should really like harness that skill and be better at it and everything. And I'm somebody who does like taking photos. I think I just never made the commitment to just like be really good at it or like practice it as much. And I remember because I was also very scared to post pictures on my Instagram account that everyone I knew was on. So I started another Instagram account called Sarah's Mediocre Photos and just posted my pictures there, and nobody followed me there, and it was just like all for me. But I also abandoned that. So
I think it's the most fun when you do something for your own self. I don't know why. It feels so freeing to not care about what other people are gonna think about. And like remember, like I sent Sarah a voice note about this yesterday, but like your worst fear has already happened. What are you gonna do? For me, even like when I thought like, okay, my worst fear about like let's say posting to Instagram, like my work, that someone is gonna think it's bad, that someone is gonna think it's mediocre. That's so freeing. That makes me want to post more because like I really don't care. Like seriously, like who cares if someone doesn't like your photo? There's so many things
yeah.
I could be doing right now, and I care about somebody on Instagram not liking my photo.
So I think another point I wanted to mention was the whole starving artist mentality and starving artist motif, I guess, because I think into interpretations. So the first interpretation is that, okay, artists don't make a lot of money and they're obviously always starving. But the other interpretation is that you need to be starving to be an artist. And you basically get inspired by your sorrows and your hardships. And I think there is a lot of truth to that. Like I feel like a lot of the times when I do get inspired to write, or like some of the best pieces that I write are when I am like most depressed. And for a long time I think I had this idea in my head that I can't write if I'm not feeling sad or depressed, or if I'm not going through something very difficult in my life, because like it's whatever is going to come out, it's not going to be good. And I think that's why it took so long for me to start writing my book eventually, even though like I had the idea a couple of years before I actually started writing it. And then one day I just started writing the book. And I know it's horrible because obviously it's a first draft. But at the same time, I was able to write. And I thought, and I had this idea in my head that if I am not going through something horrible, then I'm not going to be able to write because nothing is going to come out. And I was just like so glad that I proved myself wrong. I'm like, you don't have to be starving to be an artist.
I think I agree. And I think for you, like when you mentioned it, I was like, yeah, I completely agree. Like you don't have to be starving to do something about it. But also sometimes, and I think I'm facing this with my own like freelancing business, is the fact that when you get a job, like if you do get a job and you feel like you're already getting money out of it, which is kind of sometimes the goal out of your work or like your passion project or whatever. I'm not saying this is for all passion projects, but some passion projects do lead to money. So when you do get the money, you're just like, okay, fine, then if I'm getting my money from other sources, do I really need to continue with this? And I've faced this for myself. Like my freelancing business was actually like doing well. It was growing, and then I started another kind of office-based contract work, and I wasn't able to keep up with most of my jobs. Like I still kept a decent amount, but what I was kind of looking forward to is to grow myself, even on like social media, even like growing myself, advertising more services, and I wasn't able to do that because I don't have the time for it. So it's not like exactly starving artists. I wasn't, but when you feel like this is the only way, you have to prove yourself in that sense. But at the same time, you don't have to be like depressed or like in a very bad state to be able to do the things that you do. But there needs to be some kind of motivation to make you feel that I need to do this. I need to, as you said, like for you, that was like motivation to prove yourself something. And I do think that's a good motivation to reach to that thing. But at the same time, sometimes you do need to be at a place where like I have nothing to lose and I want to make this work because I'm at the lowest point in regards to like that goal that I have.
I think for me that makes so much sense because at this point I feel like again I'm involved in way too many things that I feel like I don't necessarily I'm always making whatever I want to do or eventually do for the rest of my life or like my career or whatever. It's taking a back seat and I'm not very happy about that. But because I've gotten myself involved in so many things that I feel like sometime I'm just gonna quit everything and focus on writing and so that I can actually do something about it or do something with it. And I know that's not very sustainable
Yeah.
in the long run because you need financial, I don't know, stability in order to, I don't know, be able to do all the things that you want to do. I mean, especially I feel like my ideal day years from now, hopefully not that many years, but when my ideal day would be like wake up, go horse riding because I'm gonna have my own horse on my own farm.
Okay.
Okay, maybe not my own farm. Okay, that would be too many years into the future, but maybe my own horse. And then I would go horse riding for an hour or so and then come back, ride for a lot, and then maybe go see horses again on my break and then go back to writing. And then just,
Yeah.
I don't know, having a nice routine where it's just you're just focused on one thing. And if you have
Yeah.
free time, you can read or do things that you like to do or enjoy to do. To me, that's such a novelty at this point because I feel
I
like
think
I
it's
used to
also
take that for granted. Yeah.
true. I do think like you take time for granted. Or even kind of like bored of the amount of time that you get, not realizing that at some point you're not gonna be as free as you are right now. But at the same time, I think this is an issue with like the 9 to 5 kind of work thing because I'm not sure like when you have an office job, you're not working like 9 to 5 exactly, but you have to be in there physically from 9 to 5. And I'm just thinking like in the past, like in the very, very back in the day of like Socrates and like all of the philosophers, like they had to have something, like I'm not saying all philosophers, because some of them were actually really poor, but like some of the people who were writing a lot, they also had their businesses, they were like tradesmen, they were people who were craftsmen, and they still wrote and they still learned and they still kind of like developed. I think one of the things is when we're like very ambitious people and we're very creative people in so many different kind of areas of life in the current economic space and in the current work space, we kind of struggle to find what a priority is. I was watching this video the other day about how to manage your time as someone who has multiple areas of interest, and he said something which I agree with. It's like the current way of work and the way that we work as creative people with a multitude of interests do not match because they they want us to be specialized, and we want to just do a lot of things and create one, or like create something out of these multiple things. And so yeah, I think it's just an issue with the current workflow, and I still see some people who are just like working on my passion project after work, and I think you have to choose your hard kind of thing. Like, would you want to just be a starving artist, and like make yourself get to your goal in a couple of years because you're struggling, or would you rather be content, like would you rather have work and have a stable economic situation and struggle at night or struggle in your free time to like get your goal across? So yeah, it's whatever you choose. You can be the starving artist and struggle, but you can also be a good like working person and also like get to your goal.
Yeah, but I think usually it is doable if you want to like do a full-time job and then one other thing outside of work that you're focused on, whether that's a business or like you're writing or something creative or content creation or whatever. But I think my particular issue is that, again, I'm involved in way too many things, so that every day after work I'm working on something different. And I always think, oh, I can do two things at the same time. Like I can work on two things in the same day after work. And that just like once you get there, it's not gonna work. You're drained of energy. And you're bored, and you're not just bored, you're just like you're so tired, you don't want to do anything anymore. And then the next day, and you end up doing neither of those things, and the next day you're just beat yourself up about it even more because you didn't do the things that you were supposed to do that will get you closer to where you want to get. So I think the most important thing is to like just focus on one project at a time.
Also, I think one thing that I learned after working in an office about being a freelancer or working on your passion project or working on anything in your life, because before then I would like have a list of like 7 things to do a day related to my work, and even if they're small things, 7 things, it's still 7 things. And like for me, I'm just like, no, 7 things are too many, and I wouldn't do anything. But then like when I was working in the office, I would, realistically speaking, finish 1 to 2 tasks of graphic design a day and like do all the rest of my work, and I felt like I was productive. Like if I finished 2 tasks a day, like big tasks, I would be like, yes, like amazing. Sometimes I would even like be working on a task for like 2 to 3 days, and I would feel good. I would be like, this is great, like it only took me 3 days to finish. And I realized I was kind of like putting myself down for expectations that are not even realistic, because you know, like you see people online and like they don't really tell you like what exactly they say. They're like, I wrote my to-do list for the workday, and like you see the list and it's like 5 different things. But I'm thinking, now that I've seen my work in the office, I realize it might have been like one big project, one personal thing that they have to do a day, like groceries and like meeting with a friend, meeting with a client. Like they're all kind of related to different areas, and they all kind of take a big chunk of time, except for like the small thing. Like, you know, posting a social media post is not going to take you as long of a time if you prepare it a day before as one of your big. So this is where like it's kind of like organized my way of thinking about it as well.
Also, like just people who live on their own or like have to cook and make sure that they eat. Like honestly, I don't know how they do it.
That's why they become.
I live with my mother, who is a great cook. I genuinely don't know how these people have the time to do everything and the energy, and then go home and make themselves dinner or lunch or whatever and eat it. Yeah, sometimes I won't even have the energy to shower, and I'll be like, oh, I'll do it tomorrow morning. And I'll just go to sleep.
To be fair though, like some of your days are crazy. Like you go horse riding, then you go pick someone from somewhere, and then you have to do your work, and then you're also working on your side project, and you're working on the volunteering thing. Like cut yourself some slack, girl.
I mean, I know, but like at the same time, imagine I do all of that and then I have to go home and cook for myself. Nope. I'll just starve. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah. And I can't eat out every day, you know, it's just economically not viable and healthy, not healthy for you, just bad for your body.
Until we get this podcast up and running and like people watching it, then we'll start doing it. Yeah, no, I agree wholeheartedly. I had another point I wanted. Yeah, I had another point, which is like we talked about this, like discipline versus motivation, because I think that's something that I kind of thought about, which is like something that I've also struggled with, because I think motivation was the most important thing with me. I was always like looking for motivation. I would be motivated by something, get excited for it, start planning it, and then I would lose the motivation and I would just not do it. And I think like slowly but surely, also with like time, you kind of pick out what your interests, what your real interests are, and what your passions, what your real passions are. But you come to a point where discipline is the way to go, and also the easiest route is the thing that's gonna allow you to have the most discipline. Like this is something I'm noticing with our podcast. So we just start easiest route, minimum editing, the most minimum. Like we don't even put video up. Just audio. We're making audios and that's it, and then editing it and putting it out, and not social media, no posting, nothing. And we're still slowly kind of building that thing up because we had to build the discipline first. And yeah, I just think this is like the way to go. Like after, motivation is not the only thing. Motivation is very important and passion is very important, but at some point you're gonna have to choose something that you can have discipline with. Like it's not like, it's kind of like choose what struggle you want to have in your life and just have the discipline to continue with it. If it's the hardest thing and you can't have the discipline for it, then it's not the thing. Definitely not. And like I had to find this out the hard way.
I'm actually proud of us. Like, I didn't think we would get to this many episodes. I thought,
No,
3 episodes and we would just like quit. We'd not do any more.
same. Just like all of the projects that we kind of tried to start together, we create the email and then we stop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have so many Gmail accounts. We need to like delete.
Seriously.
Or like we
What
create the
happened now?
Notion page to like remember our publishing company that we were gonna start one
That's
day.
the email, literally. Like a night.
One
No
day
email
we will
whatsoever.
start it. But like I feel like also with the publishing company, we didn't know where to start. Like at least with the podcast, you just like record something
No,
and put it out. But with the public, like where would
no.
we have started? I think we just had a lot of
And
ideas and we just didn't have a concrete plan.
I think we'd always have a lot of ideas. We always overplan, and that's the issue that we have. But also, I think podcast for us was the easiest starting route. It might even develop into something more hard, more editing is required, more work is required. But like this is the initial stage of where we're at, and we were actually able to start it. So, maybe publishing was first of all not meant for us, but also
I
in a
disagree.
way, I mean, right now is what I'm saying. Like, I feel like you should start with something
For
and
now,
get into
yeah.
the other stuff, which is like what's happening with my novel. I'm not sure. Like right now, where I'm at is the best it could be, even ideas wise. Even this is like this applies to a lot of things I started with. But the idea is like start, and then like you start to see a route. But if you don't start, you're just like standing there on the edge of it and
Yeah.
just like scared to like start any route that you have in front of you. Yeah.
Yeah. But now going into like we talked about like internal motivation and all of that, but I think it's also important to acknowledge like external motivation because I feel like again, if I hadn't read that book, I wouldn't be now just as excited to go back and write my book. Or honestly, sometimes you also just need another person to tell you maybe you're not as bad as you think and maybe you should just give it another shot. And sometimes, I don't know, I think you just need to spend time around the people who give you energy, because I think motivation does not just come from is on its own is not enough. Like you need to spend time with people who by the time your hangout is done, you're not drained, you're just so energetic that you want to start right away. And maybe you didn't even talk about what you want to do, but like just being around those people and hanging out. And I think I've always felt that with Lean. That's why
Same, by the way.
feel like friendship goals right now.
Yeah.
But I think even when I was like at my worst, or like when I was like deeply depressed or whatever, I would like just talk to Lynn for an hour or so, and then I would be like, yeah, I'm gonna get up and do some exercise now. Just because I felt so much energy and I needed somewhere to go with it,
Yeah. I
and I would like
remember.
start working out in my room,
Wow. Sarah, after the call, push-ups.
pretty much.
Uh, I remember when I came to Jordan this time around, and we were like in the old city, I remember, and you put the Taylor Swift song that I just told you to keep on repeating. I felt that way. I was like, I feel like, with like life and the people around you, sometimes you kind of I'm not saying you lose yourself, but you kind of start seeing yourself in a different light. And then there are people that kind of make you feel that you have so much potential still, that life isn't over, that like, there's so much more to life. Like when we were just like walking around and discovering and like doing stuff that I literally did not do, like it felt like I was a child again in a sense. And that kind of made me very inspired to like do something and like do something with my life. And And like I think this sense of like discovery and like searching for stuff and looking for things, like you kind of lose that when you're older, or like you start like acting as if you're not excited, acting as if you don't have any motivation to do something except for like money or like fame, or like these, like I feel like these are kind of not pure, like not pure. I'm not saying that nobody needs money or nobody needs like recognition sometimes, but or like needs, I hate the word needs, but like these are things that you get with certain achievements, but at the same time they shouldn't be your motivation, and sometimes you lose your vision for that, and you kind of start seeing these things as the things that you want to strive for. And I think once you have this friend who kind of like sees you, like sees your potential, sees you as a person, you kind of start seeing yourself, like before you don't see yourself, you just see these external things. I think in a way it's external because it's like a friend outside of yourself, but that person allows you to see yourself for who you are, and that's where you kind of get internal motivation. So you want to have that someone who like sees you and doesn't see the world in an external way to help you see it in an internal way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. And there are people you meet and you feel so drained after, like you feel like I have nothing
Yes.
to offer to the world, I have nothing to offer to myself, I just should sit in my chair and cry. These people, I like, you feel so after you hang out with them.
Yeah. Also, just to add to that, I feel like when we hang out, I also just stop feeling physically tired, even though we're just like, "Oh, I should be tired. Like, I should be like
Yeah,
crawling
fuck
home or
them.
something." But then, and it does hit me after, like that, oh my God, we did so much running. Like, I should be in pain. Or like, we did so much running, we did so much like shouting and having fun. And like last time we spent the entire day together, like more than 12 hours. And we
At
were
the
out,
end
we were
of
not
it,
even
I'm just
home
like,
or
oh.
relaxing, or like we were just on the move. And think like I did not feel tired at all. And then when I went home, I was like, ouch, I feel it
You were also
now.
like, you were tired, like you were
Yeah,
you were
because because I think also like I was getting sick or something. So it was just a bunch of things. Also like I was coming home like from work or whatever. So like the day before. Anyway, there was just like a bunch of things happening. But yeah, for an entire day I just didn't feel, or I didn't even think about like being tired or anything. Just like that's very important, just being around people. And I also kind of, the more I say it, I'm like, yeah, but some people don't have that. Like some people are not as lucky as us. And alhamdulillah.
I
I
think
feel
it's
like,
also,
yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say no. Like I don't always believe in this like attractions thing, but like I believe it's like in Allah who like Allah like sends you someone to be helpful to you in your journey. But at the same time, like you, like the people you kind of surround yourself with and the people Allah brings to you are people who are similar to you. So I think if you want to have that person, you have to become of similar traits as well. Like you have to like also find your own motivation. I think sometimes we lose track of ourselves as well. I'm not saying you don't lose track of yourself, and you kind of like become so in your head, and like things start, you start to think that there's things that you should care about and things that you should strive for, which is not true. I don't honestly like that. Like seeing your biggest fears happen is one of the best things that can happen in your life. It's just like admitting that the worst fears can happen, because then you can just like start fixing your own self. Like this is the only thing that I can try to fix and try to make better. And also like the people around you, like I'm so thankful for Sarah and like my family also. Like sometimes it's just like, Lean, you're sitting in your room for too long, get out of the room. And that's like when I'm just like, there's something wrong with me, I need to like get into my like brain and just like rearrange the things and stuff in my brain. But like having the people around you and also seeking out connections in your life is way better than just spending your life alone, or like not alone, but you know like, what I mean. Like you cannot
Yeah.
live, you cannot win everything on your own. You need someone there for you either way. And for me, like my motivation, like my aspirations, my passions, alhamdulillah, like I've always had Sarah like since a very young age, and we've kind of grew in passions together, and like we've leveled up in a way together. And I think everybody has potential to find someone who can help them do that, just like ask Allah for that. You know, like someone to help you on your journey, because you do need that someone. I also think like our goal in life should be just always be improving with
Yeah.
in everything that you do, and that's kind of motivating enough, because like every day you can improve one small thing. You don't have to improve everything, and like even the goal that you have, you can improve slightly in it, but you just have to keep going at it. You know, like Meet the Robinsons, keep moving. I don't know what was the song. Keep moving
I don't
forward.
know.
So, but yeah, yeah,
Um,
I'm so thankful about having my friendship with Sarah. Thank you, Sarah. Love.
uh, I think just generally also whether you, especially if you're going into something creative, but I think just generally in life, not even just if you want to do something creative, always try to consume a lot of what you are trying to do yourself. So if you want to get better at a bit at business, just consume a lot of business books or business podcasts or business, and there is so much material on the internet that's all free. And I just feel like a lot of people just completely forget that the internet exists when they want to do something. Like, just look it up on Google.
But also social media. Don't, guys. I know you know who I'm talking to. When you see that crochet person, or you see that very creative human being doing something very unique, don't do it. Like don't be inspired by everything you see. Pick something and just like do it first,
Oh
and
yeah,
and
get your inspiration from elsewhere, but get the ideas from Google or
yeah.
like the where to start or the where from social media and all of that, like from the internet. But don't get like your initial inspiration or your goal from the internet.
So
I
many
mean, you
people
could just, but also just be very selective again and intentional about it.
yeah.
So yeah, so I think that's why, like, for going back to the book, like what got me excited about it again was like reading the same genre again after like just losing that connection for so long. So I think it's important, like if you're writing a book, just read a lot. If you're doing a podcast, listen to a lot of similar podcasts. If you want to start a business in a certain thing, just look at how, like, try to look up other people who did the same thing or similar things and see how they did it. And that's
Yeah,
just
and
like,
also
because I feel like a lot of people, or especially me, for example, like we have the inspiration, we have the motivation, but we don't know where to start and we just feel so lost. And sometimes, again, don't get too caught up in the research, don't get too caught up in the thing. You can do and research at the same time. So just start and research alongside you starting something.
And also, like when you are searching for inspiration, because I have done searching for inspiration, and sometimes you kind of forget your previous goal and you just start seeing, for example, for me, art. I see someone who's like so good at what they do, and I'm just like, am I even gonna get to that point? And then that kind of lets me not do the thing that I want to do because they're already doing it better. But like just start, and you know how the phrase like steal like an artist, like steal the structure of the post that they're doing, steal what like the subject that they're doing. You don't have to like, I'm not saying imitate that person, don't imitate, but just like be inspired to a point where that makes you create. But don't like, you just like look at the post and freeze on yourself and just be like, I'm not gonna be able to do this in the best way. Because as we said, your goal is to just finish the thing. Your goal is not to be the best at it. Because I've heard so many stories of people, like for example, starting a graphic design business and like them showing us their first logos. I'm just like, this is worse than what I currently do. And they were getting paid
Mhm.
money for it. So confidence is key, guys. Like if you feel like you have the potential, you do. Like that's when you know you do. خلاص, start on it. Start. Just do it.
I feel like we've covered everything I wanted to talk about. Do you have anything else to add?
No, but I feel like it's nice. Like this topic is nice because
Yeah.
yeah. I was thinking about it today. I was like, fine, like if I don't have any fears, then how am I? Because like you're driven so much by fear sometimes that you forget that you can also be driven by inspiration. So like when you brought it up, I was like, damn, right, there's
Mind
inspiration.
reader.
It doesn't always have to be fear.
Yeah, I think sometimes fear stops you from more than it can like drive you. This is a shorter episode, but I had fun.
Same.
And thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next episode. مع
Bye.
السلامة.